Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the Storyteller's Corner. I'm your host, Joshua T. Goblin-Strubergy, also known as Byron Sidious. Today we're going to continue with the presentation of Captured, a Metroid fanfiction as written and read by yours truly. We begin now with Part 7. Wrench zipped up the blue fit suit and tried twisting the zipper, which, like any other suit of its kind, pulled the material tight against her body. "I don't think this is going to work," Hammer said, but the mechanic wasn't listening. She was instead wrapped up in the queer sensation of the tiny metallic nodes pressed against her skin on the interior of Samus's Zero suit. "You got another print ready?" she asked, stepping toward the heavy armor on the table. Hammer nodded, sticking the printed polymer to the end of the mannequin hand and reaching it toward the contact knob on the armor's chest plate. When he did, a small buzz sounded from the suit, and Wrench felt a brief thrum in the Zero suit, along with contact diodes. The chest plate popped open then, tumbling the armor to the floor, nearly falling on her feet. She jumped back with a yip and a laugh, clamping her hands on Hammer's shoulders and jumping up and down excitedly. "I told you," she yelped, nodding. "It's like a key. There was no signature coming from the fifth suit, so the armor wouldn't open." All right, you've proved your point," said Hammer, crouching down to turn the armor over. "Now get in," he said, bouncing around the end of the work table to retrieve the bounty hunter's helmet. Wrench shimmied down into the armor suit, slipping her legs in first, then laying back and finagling her arms through the sleeves. She felt several thin cords and plates pushed lightly against her skin, and the chest plate automatically clamped shut on her, encasing her in the armor. With a grunt, she tried to sit up, but the armor wouldn't move. "Whoa," said Hammer, peering at the translucent green shield on the helmet. "There's some kind of readout displaying here. Hold up." He came around the other end of the table and knelt down to fit the helmet down over Wrench's head. The device seemed to magnetically suction down into place, and Wrench now found herself looking at some kind of system diagnostic. Initializing. Physical power outlet levels indicate injury or atrophy. Auxiliary servo motors activating. There was a strange whirring noise somewhere in the armor suit, and once more Wrench tried to sit up, this time with success. She grappled for the rolling table and pulled herself up to a standing position, disoriented by the sudden additional height the suit gave her. "This is trippy," she said with a laugh, and Hammer smiled up at her. The right arm, the dark green cannon, rose into her field of vision as she lifted her own arm. The fact that there was no lag pleased her, though she could feel something pressing down against her left temple that was becoming uncomfortable, like a sudden itch. The text display went blank, replaced with several dots. Then another message scrolled across the display, which followed. "User unrecognized. Zero suit readings do not match user Samus Aran. Loading intruder program." The screen went black, blocking out Wrench's entire field of vision, and the thin cables and plates of the armor's interior suddenly pressed down against her to the threshold of pain, and the servo motors locked into position. She couldn't move. She could faintly hear someone shouting at her from outside of the suit, however, likely Hammer trying to find out what was going on. The visual display flickered to life once more, showing Samus seated in some kind of cozy leather armchair. She was wearing a simple yellow tunic shirt with a floral print on the right side, and plain black trousers, situated on some kind of study, her long, blue-green hair tied back in a ponytail. She was looking at some kind of recording device, Wrench assumed. "If you're seeing this, congratulations," the bounty hunter said amiably, even allowing herself a tiny grin. "You've either incapacitated me or killed me. By now you've figured out that the Zero suit must be worn in order to access my armor, or you've brute-forced your way into it somehow. Despite the many modifications I've made to my equipment, there's always someone more clever out there in the verse. At least that's what my father used to say. This armor and the Zero suit itself were never intended to be used by anyone else but me. That's why I installed this program, to prevent that from happening." On camera, Samus leaned forward a little. "And that's also why I'm going to give you an understanding of what exactly is about to happen to you." Samus stood from her chair and walked off screen, and a few moments later returned with a small syringe in her hand. She stood before the chair, and the camera angle tilted up to follow her upper body movement. She held the syringe horizontally to the viewer, its tube filled with some kind of thin, dark orange liquid. This is Cytozera, an extract from the cyto plant which is native to the planets of the Calboris system. In most humanoid species, it is a nervous enhancer, boosting the user's sensory input capacity. You will see, hear, taste, smell, and feel everything more intensely than you ever have in your God-given life, she said. Wrench felt a small pricking sensation in her left bicep, and a few seconds later, she could feel every single inch of cable and plating pressed against her, smell the saltiness of her own sweat, and the tang of her fear-driven urine leaking down the interior of the Zero Suit's legs. Oh God, oh Maker, she gibbered, feeling her muscles twitching as she tried to tremble, held tightly by the armor's self-defense program. And this, Samus said on screen, pulling another syringe into view, this one filled with a pale yellow substance. This is Coravara 1, a nerve toxin developed by Thermonta Corporation, a weapons manufacturer in the First Earth Federation. It is outlawed for use in military operations, but can be purchased in small doses by private citizens, since it can also be used as a deterrent against wildlife predation of farm crops in the system. What this means is, quite simply, this. You are going to feel every nerve in your body be burned out. And then, if you do not die of shock, the toxin will shut down your brain. Once you are dead, the armor will only open again for me when I place my hand on the helmet and speak the automated retrieval phrase, Samus said, returning to her seat. But you won't need to know what that is, she said, as the first flames of hell licked at the nerves in Wrench's right foot, where the second hypo had punctured her flesh. After all, in about a minute, you'll probably be dead. The screen went blank then, and Wrench was left to scream into the erstwhile silent vacuum of the armor suit. Thus concludes Captured, Part 7. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. Thank you for listening. I ask that you take care of yourselves, and as always, keep reading.